The price of gold is once again gaining thanks to a war of words between the US and North Korea. John Butler is here with me now from Gold Money. Hello to you. Thank you for your time as usual.
My pleasure, Katie.
What a turnaround for gold.
Yes, it has been quite decisive. And last we spoke about how, if anything, the chart pattern that was developing looked a bit bearish, as if gold was going to have to move down to the lower end of the range that it had been trading in for quite a long time now before it might decisively bounce back. That did not happen, and the recent news flow has clearly been gold supportive. But in fact, it's become gold supportive to the point where the chart's turned the other way. And actually, gold is breaking out of its very recent range, and it looks like it's going to have a go at least reaching and challenging the double top that it put in just shy of $1,300 per ounce over the past few months.
Let's have a look at this chart just now, because you mentioned that double top and we can see it very clearly just now. And you think that it's going to go for a triple top then?
Well, I think that traders will see the opportunity to, at a minimum, challenge that. So I think there's going to be a lot of new buying interest, giving us a bit of momentum, at least to that point. Nothing's guaranteed, of course, and the news flow might go right back the other way, giving gold a reason to go right back down again. But as it stands now, as you mentioned, the very heated rhetoric between the U.S. and North Korea, and let's face it, certain other geopolitical disputes around the world, other factors equal, these are currently gold supportive.
Yep, and we're going to go back as well. I just want to go back in time. And if we can see what's been happening longer term, because we're always talking about gold as a long-term trade. What does this tell us?
Well, this is where it gets even more interesting, because if you go back and draw the trend line down this whole multi-year chart, what you see is that, yes, fine, gold's been trading in a fairly narrow and uninteresting range over the past year or so. However, it's bumping up against this long-term downtrend line. And if it takes that out, and it not only challenges, but punches through the double top set more recently, that starts to become kind of a 9 out of 10 on the bullish chart scale, right? Then everyone's going to see an opportunity for a big breakout in gold, perhaps for another $100 or even $200 an ounce. That is a really big recovery, a resumed bull market. So, watch this space. It's too early to conclude that yet. Indeed, you can't conclude anything in advance. But for those people who follow these things closely, the sort of convergence of multiple chart patterns, long-term and short-term, is particularly interesting at present.
I think it proves as well, if you are a chart person, you do have to look at the news headlines, because it's completely changed the motions of gold this week.
Well, absolutely. And while, look, I respect charts for what they are, but at the end of the day, ultimately, it's going to some fundamental sense of direction and value, which is going to carry the day, notwithstanding all the noise that can be created in the interim by people purely trading chart patterns. But when you do turn to those fundamentals, gold does have reasons to begin to move higher. The Fed is starting to sound a little bit more dovish following a long period of sounding more hawkish, number one. The dollar, of course, is itself a lot weaker. You see that too.
I'm going to get that up now.
I mean, let's face it, gold may have been in a range versus the dollar over the past couple of years, but it's been going up versus most other currencies. So really, the dollar's kind of been the outlier. And if the dollar itself is now going down versus gold, and gold continues to still eke out small gains versus other currencies, well, then gold's rising versus practically everything else, and that's a proper gold bull market, and that tells you something about the state of the world. Maybe people are concerned about currencies as stores of value. They're concerned that central banks, not just the Fed, will not be able to continue tightening policy. And if that's the case, then where's the competition for gold, right? If no currency is offering a high interest rate, and of course gold offers no interest rate, then gold finds it more easy to compete. You're not competing against these higher interest rate expectations for normal currencies.
About competition, what about Bitcoin then?
Well, Bitcoin remains a fascinating one. I refer to it politely as a monetary experiment. You can't deny it's relatively new, it's a work in progress, and no one really knows where it's going. However, as we know, some people simply like to trade, and people who simply like to trade, they like volatility. They want to find things that are volatile and interesting and new. And actually, what you do see is growing interest in Bitcoin, not necessarily because people buy into the story that it's going to replace currencies en masse and become the new global currency. They don't need to buy that. They see the volatility, they see the growing liquidity, they read more headlines, and it kind of becomes a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy that more people simply pile into the trade. It doesn't necessarily drive it higher. We've seen it come off very hard as well in recent months. but the pure speculative interest and volatility is clearly on the ascendant. And so I don't see what would change that anytime soon.
Okay, John Butler, thank you very much indeed for your time today. We appreciate it. We were talking about Bitcoin, gold, North Korea, and a bit of Trump too.